Kia ora, g'day, welcome back once again. This is part 4 of my reaction to the first video of 2 videos to Mr. Ben Griffin, former 22 SAS operator, who's on the HR podcast with Hugh Keir. So let's jump back in.
How we phrase that, not as good at that hearts and mind stuff as we are, and not as conscious of the impact the little things can have on it, like smashing on lampposts. Because there's more of them, it's very hard to get people accountable. That's not to say that that's not to make excuse for what you experienced. You know, absolutely. No. What you're saying is wrong. What you're saying is wrong.
I suppose the problem is that
No, sorry. What you're saying has happened. The fact that it happened is wrong. I'm saying it's not that what you were saying is wrong. But.
Yeah. But is that it was us doing it, you know? So that, you know, there was 30 of us. We were all British. We were, you know, a high quality unit. You know, and I think what it is as well is that it was a system that we were working within. So it wasn't like our local commander has just decided to start, like, to initiate these jobs. We were working within a much bigger system. So we were the troops that grabbed these people from the homes and handed them over for initial interrogation that were then handed into these prison systems where they were detained and tortured. So it was a system that was set up, you know. Do you think there was a kind of like, it was like a conveyor belt, you know, like a factory system almost, you know. You had guys doing the intelligence, guys doing the surveillance, guys doing the capture, interrogation, detention, torture, and round and round it went.
I think everything with regards to the nature of the operations in Iraq and in Afghanistan, we were all part of a bigger system. That's no secret. We were part of a bigger system, being out in the Western Desert for our role in the 2003 Iraqi war, looking for the weapons of mass destruction that nobody found. When we'd cleared our area, you know, I think the lads, like, we were listening to the radio, our little shortwave radios, and hearing the propaganda on both sides. You know, the Iraqis saying that there are no US troops here, and then next minute there's footage and stuff of US soldiers in the heart of Baghdad and making their way in and around other parts of Iraq as well. So once we had done what we believed was our part, you know, the guys were keen to be redeployed, to be utilised in and around, wondering, hoping, fingers crossed, if we'd get a gig in Baghdad as part of the operations that were going on there. But no, our piece for that time was done, and our task force was pulled out, rotated out, and we got to do what we got to do, but we didn't get to go in during that time in 2003, 2004, 2005 into the heart of Baghdad. So, but it is what it is. I'll just share that because Ben's comments, you know, part of a bigger system. Yeah, you are part of a much bigger system, and the system itself, just my take, is and was run by America. So, you know, you slot into that system. Even in private security, when I first got into country, and the lads picked me up, and then they took me through getting all my paperwork and DOD and all that sort of stuff and ID done. That was all through the American system. So, yeah, it's. I think that's probably self-explanatory for people to, when they're watching and looking. Yeah, you're there with your defence force, New Zealand, Australia, British, whoever else, but you're coming under that bigger system, as the way Ben has described it, which is run by the US.
And that was designed by someone. You know, it wasn't just a couple of bad apples who.
But that same system exists now, right? So the system still exists now, right? As in, you know, you get intelligence, you get information, you turn it into intelligence, you act on it, you stick an operation, and you achieve the aim. You know, and that could be bringing a HVT in and send them off to the neck in the prison, for interrogation or whatever. That system still exists now. And all the tours I did, I've never experienced. I can hand on heart 100% say I never experienced any torturing going on. This isn't to say it didn't happen, right? But I never experienced any of it going on. I did experience mistreatment of a prisoner once, and that was by a TA guy attached to 3 para in Iraq. It was the invasion of Iraq, right? And he got fucking destroyed. Destroyed him. Destroyed the sergeant. It went, it's not happening. And this is a legitimate prisoner. But you don't go battering people for the sake of battering. And there's other things with that. It's not just the morality of it. There's other things that is it well, you know this, the shock of capture. You know, our job was we get them, and if we before they send them off, minimal exposure, minimal sensory exposure, hood over their head. You know, even filling them in, punching them, kicking them. It's they're sensing something. You don't want anything. You want to sit there in fucking silence, and no one in the team speaks around them. So they have a hood on. They can't hear anything apart from if they're in a wagon, the wagon moving. They ain't got a clue what's going on. And we sent him off, and that guy got battered in the back of a wagon. And when the sergeant major found out, he went ballistic, and rightly so. Going back to that point, so the system you're talking about that was in place in Iraq at that time, 2003, still exists now. I was in part of that system, all the way through in various stages. I didn't see anything of what you're talking about. Obviously not raids, but not at your level, not fucking special forces level, or the torture side. My question is, do you think that that mistreatment and those injustices that you're talking about happened, and they're documented, they did flipping happen, right? Do you think that that time and place and conflict, 03.
05.
Sorry, 05. Oh,
yeah.
sorry. Okay,
yeah.
05. So we as a military, US, UK, were still very new and still learning the game then at that time. And you know what it's like to work with another, like you're saying there, the example about the Arabs, you can speak Arabic, you don't really know what they're saying unless you're flipping Arabic yourself. It took me a long time to realize that, especially with Iraqis, they'll always tell you they'll never want to be wrong. The same thing you say, do you know you're going to be doing this tomorrow? You go, yeah. They haven't got a clue. Do you know how to load that weapon? Yeah. And they won't have a clue. They'll just, because they don't lose face, and they always tell you what they want to hear. So you often get a lot of lies. It's a culture thing. So do you think that those mistreatments, injustices were down to having crap intelligence, not understanding the information and turning it into crap intelligence, and then because of that big machine that was going on, not having that accountability at a lower level and letting people run amok? And so my point is, would it have improved after?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just going to jump in before Ben gives his answer to Hugh's question. Big question, heavy question. I don't know what Ben's going to share or what his response will be, but I wouldn't have an answer to that. And personally, that you're making a heck of a lot of assumptions and stuff there. Like, he makes a really valid point, Hugh, about that system was already in place, but now you're getting crap information being turned into intelligence, which you're then using to act upon. And you're finding out and sussing out that actually these people seem to be non-players, non-combatants, non-participants, whatever you want to call them. But we're grabbing them, bundling them up and shipping them off and putting them in the pipeline and the system anyway. That's heavy. Anyway, let's hear what Ben has to say.
I think that from my perspective, it's important to re-emphasize that this was a system. So it wasn't some rogue troops, because, for example, and this is something that, I'm proud of, throughout my time in 2 Para, throughout my time at Hereford, in the companies and, in the whole battalion, but definitely in the companies I was in, the squadrons I was in, people's fire control was exemplary. You would have to be faced with lethal force to use lethal force. And that was exemplary, And, on a couple of occasions, we have heard, like in 2 Para or, with our American friends next door, examples that I don't think met that standard. And we looked down on them, you know, and I think that was common in a lot of units in the British Army, you know, that, for example, shooting up a family in a car at a checkpoint that's not a good kill. You know, that you don't get any credibility for that. In fact, your reputation is going to take a nosedive. You know, those kind of things. And I think, unfortunately, over the whole of the war on terror, those things I think those standards have dropped. You know, and
Really?
yeah,
No. No way. No, sorry, not my experience. And the reason I'm saying is, right,
just from what I'm just from what I'm hearing.
Right, so I'm very lucky in that. So I joined 2000, and I do actually feel quite strong about this. But again, the caveat is this is my experience, right? My experience, right? Yeah. So it's not everyone, so it doesn't mean right. So I joined 2000. I left 2011. I did it. I did every Operation 3 I did in that time. So everyone, I did couple of islands, couple of Iraqs, 3 Afghans. Yeah, so it's and to this day, I mean, they haven't deployed since. So so I'm quite proud of that fact, mate. Every Operation 3 I've done in the 21st century. There we go, I've done it. I'll be good when they do another one. I'm not there. My experience of it, and especially with Afghan. So I've got to Iraq, 2003 in Iraq. Flipping heck, the ROE was tight. It wasn't 429. We were on 429 Alpha in Iraq. We were on, I think we were on 421 and 422, which is a little less, you know. So 429 is, you know, we used to call it 429 party time. This is a tongue-in-cheek joke, you know. And 421 and 422 is that you could engage if you were presented with lethal force. I think. That 429. No, yeah. But you didn't have to be shot at. And then the one below that, I can't remember what it was. You know, Card Alpha. You know, you had to wait to be shot at, or a pattern to be. It's just a fucking nightmare. That was 03. It was really tight. Was engagement during a war. It was a war, right? 05 was tight as well, and then throughout again. So where Afghans concerned, I did the first Herrick 4, but the first combat deployment there in 2006. Then I did a tour in the middle, 2008. Okay, so over the life of that campaign, if you like, and then I did a tour at the end, 2011. So I experienced all sorts of stuff. The evolution of the kit we were getting issued, to the evolution of the rules of engagement and how hard they would come down on you if things like your fire control wasn't disciplined. You know, counting rounds. It got crazy. My experience of it got better and better and better and better. As in that discipline of hearts and mind discipline, that because Afghan was so difficult from a hearts and minds perspective, and you had the weight of the public gradually going against it, supporting the troops more, but gradually going against why are we there? What's the point? It meant that we need to do less combat, more hearts and minds, and so you have to be better at hearts and minds, because you still need to battle the Taliban, and if your hands are getting tied by how combat effective you're allowed to be, then you've got to try and beat them in other ways. So my experience was it improved. It was definitely not when it got worse. Definitely not going to worse. Yeah. Why did you say?
Well, I would think if you compare to, for example, if we look at some examples from Northern Ireland in the early 90s of what happened to troops when they opened fire on guys who've been involved in. So I think there's a famous one, and we'll have to. I'm just using it as an example because I might get some of the details wrong, but I'm pretty sure that there were 2 guardsmen. I can't remember which guards battalion it was. Someone threw a pipe bomb at them, and they opened fire
on the people who threw it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Early 90s, and they got put in prison for it. Now, put that into Afghanistan. A similar thing, a similar thing about a similar situation, and I don't think those guys go to prison.
It's a good example. Like if that's what happened in Ireland, the example that he's talking about, pipe bomb thrown at them, they shoot and open fire. I don't know if they kill them. The perpetrators, for want of a better term, those that initiated and threw the pipe bomb. I personally, I think Ben's comment holds some weight in terms of those two, but they're, again, a whole bunch of factors, They're different times, different ROEs, different situations. So it's not like we're not comparing apples with apples, is probably how I would describe it. What I do like, and yeah, really cool to hear the way Hugh really felt strongly to jump in with regards to putting forward his experience, his counter to Ben's comments around his experience. And so I guess where I'm going with this is that we all have a bias in terms of what we saw, what we felt, how we felt, what we did, what we saw other people do, etc. I know I've got a definite bias in a lot of things. And again, I think I've expressed that in and around my time with the Australian Special Air Service Regiment. Awesome men. I was blessed to be a part of a squadron at that time, have incredible leaders, just operators and men of integrity, right down to, capturing a surrendered force, a fairly significant force. They outnumbered us by the time they surrendered. And, we let them go. I'm still amazed that we all came back from that trip, and amazed that they didn't regroup, rearm, and come back out and be better prepared for us the next time. So maybe they did go back and rearm, regroup, and go back out looking to try to find us. Maybe it turned out that they just never did. But man, everybody's experiences and what they see, and here's an example with these two gentlemen right now, is going to be different. Stoked to hear Hugh's experience, and that from his viewpoint things got better and better. And Ben's, unfortunately, from what I'm hearing so far anyway, sounds like he hasn't been too impressed or happy with what he's seen and how things have played out.
You wouldn't have been allowed to engage. It depends on the rules of engagement. Let me think about that.
And if it is a change in the rules of engagement, then this isn't about being critical of soldiers. It's about, well, the system has changed then. What we're asking our soldiers to do has changed. What we're expecting them to do in certain situations has changed. But going back to the...
That's true, but again, to my comment earlier, it's a different environment, different, like the conflict in Ireland, Northern Ireland, that I think he's referring to in that example, night and day, completely different to picking that up and putting that into an Afghan situation, or into an Iraq situation, or to any other conflict. Iran and Israel, as an example, Ukraine and Russia, like completely different scenarios, situations, reasons, etc. So the system, whatever that system is, the war system, as an example, will likely have some changes and will adapt over time. And naturally, what soldiers are being asked to do will change over time as well. Things will either can become more complex for an SF soldier and operator compared to, now I don't know what they were initially asked to do, but I can 100% guarantee that over the years things have evolved and adapted, and there's been I wouldn't say a higher, but there's been a demand as times change and as technology comes in, that there's more asked of an SF operator to learn those details, to learn the skills, to learn the ability to be able to do certain tasks, especially in and around the use of technology, not only the weapons, different weapon systems, etc. But that's going to continue to be, I think anyway, the evolution of military, of forces, of soldiering in general.
So just to sort of tidy up the whole Iraq thing. So we'd been out there doing all these jobs, and it was pretty obvious to a lot of us that we were picking up people who had nothing to do with the insurgency. And I've got more examples of things like that. But I think the thing that really hit home to me was when our CO came out to brief us, and he was worried that we were losing the war in Iraq. He said that this was the first conflict he was going to be involved in that we lost because, you know, for a whole load of reasons. But, and he was also worried that we, as in the unit we were becoming the secret police of Baghdad. And it was like, when he said that, I was like, it was like the final bit of sort of like, not evidence or proof, but, you know, like that final sort of like, the penny dropped, you know, like when you've got all this stuff going on, it's like, no, this is what we're doing. We're sort of like rounding up loads and loads of people, you know, all the things I've already described. And we're fueling an insurgency. And I found out since, for example, that at one point in Iraq, there was 25,000 men in detention. And there's an article I read that most of the guys who ended up forming ISIS.
So this is a razor that you buy once. It's a razor that you own forever. And it's a razor that no matter...
had met during that period of detention.
How would they know that? Where did they get
interviewed him? And it tallies up, actually, because years later I've been over to Ireland and I've met with former members of the IRA. And they've all got these stories. These guys would have been involved in rioting in the late 60s and early 70s. Might have been involved in, you know, like throwing stones at soldiers or throwing a petrol bomb at a soldier or whatever. Maybe a bit more. But it was only when they brought in internment, put thousands of these lads into prison together, they got organised, you know. And a lot of them then came out of that detention period, that internment period in the early 70s, and then became proper IRA men, you know. So it's not sort of like beyond belief, you know. But anyway, when you incarcerate 25,000 men, you know, like they're angry for being there. Yeah. What we're going to do, you know?
Yeah,
that's a really good point. You know, you can connect the dots to Hugh's point as well. It's like, how do they know that? You know, 25,000. How do they know that? And, you know, in terms of establishing this insurgency from that cohort or from a group or a number of those 25,000, whatever the number is, that's a fair statement and comment. But also to Ben's point, when he's giving some examples, even though I have no idea, I've never met with any former IRA, or maybe I have, but I didn't know. But you can sort of, or I can anyway, in my small mind, connect how that could drive somebody and or the next generation down who's seeing that and or who has loved ones that have been held in detention wrongfully for no reason because somebody assumes or suspects that they are a baddie, and how that could influence that next generation to go, well, you know what, you think my family's bad, you think we're bad, okay, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna join this group. So to Ben's point and comment about they were creating an insurgency, yeah, I can see how that could happen, and how you 100% lose the hearts and minds battle that you're trying to nurture, that you're trying to improve, that you're trying to develop.
But yeah, so when the CO said, you know, like, oh, I'm worried we're becoming a secret police of Baghdad, and we're going to lose it, you know, you think we're going to lose this. I've never heard a CO say that before.
I'm just wondering, sorry to pause that again so soon after just waffling before, but hearing Ben talk about this and how it was making him feel, and he also mentioned earlier that there were a number of he got the sense or a feeling that other guys in his team, I'm assuming in his team, were feeling like we're grabbing people that are not part of this and sending them off to be tortured. I wonder, excuse me, if Ben and or any of those other operators spoke with their leaders and stuff like that, because they're not backwards and coming forwards, if that makes sense. They're not shy about voicing their concerns or their opinions or their suggestions on how to do things. The term is used within the Special Air Service anyway, and I think within Special Forces in general, a thinking man's soldier. And that's part of what they're looking for too. People that will think outside the box, people that will question, oh, why are we doing that? You know, that critical thinking, people might call it, but people that will ask questions, sometimes hard questions, and have challenging conversations. So I just wonder if he'll delve into that, and I wonder if because he says that was the point when the CO said that they're becoming the secret police, or he's worried that they're becoming the secret police of Baghdad. I think he alluded to that was the point that the penny dropped for him, and he's like, yeah, this is not right. I wonder if he brought it up and said, hey, then why are we doing this? Who's got our back? Who's speaking with, in this case, the machine, the system has been run by the US. Who from our force is speaking with the system coordinators, for want of a better term, and who's speaking on our behalf? We're giving you the feedback. You're sending us out on the tasks and the missions. We're doing them. We're bringing people back. This is our collective thought. If it wasn't just Ben, but he sort of alluded to that there are other guys that were feeling the same way. Because then you'd think surely somebody's got to start poking and prodding from their higher ups, from the regimental headquarters, to go, well, we're not just getting it from one operator, we're getting it from several of our highly experienced, highly trained SF unit, the UK Special Air Service, and they're all saying the same thing. So then the hierarchy should be, moving through. You would think, but hey. Anyway, let's carry on with this for another minute or so, and then I'll wrap this one up.
It's kind of like, have you ever heard it?
No.
And that was as well as a load of other stuff that was going on out there.
Was he CO, Hereford CO?
Yeah.
Oh.
A load of other stuff that was going on out there, where you could see the bigger picture of things. Like it's like what are we doing? I mean, by then, obviously we'd found out that there was no weapons of mass destruction.
Well, you had. The public hadn't realised.
I think by 2005, it was pretty clear that there weren't any. Like everyone had stopped looking for them, hadn't they?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty clear from 2003, to be fair. But that's because, again, my bias, we were out on the ground, we didn't find zip in terms of WMDs. And the other units that we knew that were in the area, which we obviously didn't go into, because there are other units searching those same areas where the known WMD and or likely known WMD firing positions would be. Nobody found anything. So yeah, in 2003, when we come back, I was pretty convinced, having been on the ground, and I think the squadron that I was with was pretty convinced that there were no WMDs there, and there may have been something else at play. Who knows? I'm just looking at Hugh racking his brain, thinking, oh, hang on. And so I agree with what Ben has shared. I think definitely by 2005, I didn't hear any more talk of searching for weapons of mass destruction anymore. That sort of just faded into the abyss somewhere. But anyway, instead of playing this again, I'm going to wrap this one up now because it's nearly 30 minutes. But if you made it this far, appreciate your time. There are some articles, links to articles which have been sent to me as well. So I'll look to share those and screenshot those and put them up. Talk about not the whole thing, but parts of it. Maybe the whole thing. Maybe that's a separate video, but connected to this. And and just give my thoughts in that. Hopefully I'm making sense with regards to my reaction to this video. It's great to hear the host's perspective. Really cool to hear Ben's. There's so many questions that I have for him. If I was fortunate to sit down with him, who knows, maybe one day that might happen. But grateful to have this opportunity, have this platform, and to give my 2 cents for what it's worth to anybody that might spend some time here. So appreciate you. As always, the message is the same. Any of you going through any dark times, challenges, heartache, heartbreak, keep turning up, keep staying in the fight, keep putting one foot in front of the other, take one day at a time. Know that the sun will shine again, that there are better days ahead and those better days are closer than you think. and know that there is a light at the end of that long, dark and lonely, miserable tunnel. It will not last forever. Things do get better, I promise you. So as always, go always a little further. Remember, who dares wins and who cares wins. And until the next video, there's a big mana wave coming from me to you, filled with my aroha, respect, appreciation, and gratitude for you all.